3rd of February 2025. Late submissions will not be accepted. For further information about the competition, visit safm.co.za or send an email to drama@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Hi, Cathy. I just wish to know why now that the process of retrieving the people from the mine is finished, now we have ambassadors coming out to help. Why didn't they come out after the first day that we know that they are foreign nationals are the ones who are found there? Why didn't they come out and help South African government to retrieve those people? Because it's their people. Why now the ambassadors are saying we can help, we are going to help? Why didn't they came out to help stop these people from doing what they were doing?
Hi, morning, Cathy, you are here. Cathy, from my side, I don't believe our government is going to be able to regulate anything that comes from China. The reason being is our government is too deep in the pockets of the Chinese. Our president is a very weak man. They will never pass any law that regulate anything that comes from China. The Chinese people are very powerful people in our country and outside of our country. There's no way that something like this will happen in our country. It's a good thing for America. I also feel that China stepped too much over the line sometimes, but no one want to stand up against Chinese. But that is what it is in South Africa. We need to deal with it. Our government is weak.
All right, yeah, James says that, morning, Cathy. I think South Africa too should follow Australia and ban social media for under 18s. Social media nowadays has gone from bad to worse. President Biden was correct as saying social media plays very dangerous role in spreading misinformation. That's another view there. Let me go to Durban. Anonymous, good morning to you.
Hi, Cathy.
Yes, what do you want to talk about?
Cathy, I just want to comment about a very painful situation of learners who are unable to get admitted in universities. I mean, 100,000 plus learners who apply for university education and only 6,000 are able to enter. I mean, what do we do about the remaining who are unable to enter? I think the solution for the situation is to build more universities to accommodate all these learners who are qualifying for university education. I mean, there are other emerging countries like Turkey. It has over 100 universities. Why doesn't South Africa build more universities to accommodate these hard-working learners so that they can get university education? It's just so painful.
Anonymous, do you think that's the answer? I was looking at some of the figures, and I know that, what Anonymous is referencing there are figures that were shared with us by Wits University in a conversation we had yesterday, that they've received 118,000 applications, but they only have room for 6,000 learners. And this morning, some of the figures out of NSFAS say they have over 900,000 applications. From young people who need support in funding their education, their higher education. And I just wonder, Anonymous, do you think that having more universities is necessarily the answer to the question?
Yeah, I do think it could mitigate the situation to a certain extent. I mean, there are so many learners, some that I'm familiar with, I know personally, who are unable to gain entry into universities, yet they still qualified because it was already full. Why can't the government build more, instead of just expanding these campuses, build more universities to accommodate learners who are able to qualify for university education and not leave them destitute? I don't know, that's just my opinion. That's how I think the problem could be resolved.
All right, Anonymous out in Durban. Look, in South Africa, I do think that we still have room to have a lot more universities than what we do currently. But if you're looking at an admission rate of 6,000, and yet improving pass rates for these learners, where, more and more of them are getting the bachelor passes. Does it not bring us back to the conversation of the pathways into careers beyond school and what those pathways look like, even for learners that have done well, right? Because often we look at it through the lens of, let's look at vocational training, let's look at your TVET college, but maybe that's not the stream that somebody wants to follow, but yet they're not accepted into university. What do they do? Are we potentially looking at a situation where you could have another missing, lost middle when it comes to these acceptance rates? It certainly is an issue that we need to be talking about as a country. So, yeah, Anonymous, thanks for bringing that up. It's 9:30. It's time for your latest news headlines. It is the open line. I'm still taking your calls on 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107.
Good morning. In the headlines, the Northwest Health Department says pathologists are ready to start to get DNA from unidentified bodies retrieved from a disused mine in Stilfontein in the Northwest. The Hawks have confirmed the arrest of a 21-year-old suspect in the online leakage of matric results. The Basic Education Department lodged a complaint that matric results are being sold for about 100 Rand on the internet last weekend. And last year saw the fastest annual rise in the concentration of carbon dioxide the atmosphere ever recorded. That's according to Britain's Met Office. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, we continue the conversation on the Talking Point. Let me go to Ezingolweni. Dwaiza, good morning to you.
It's nice hearing from you after a long time.
Yes.
And compliments of the new year.
We said we were going to stop that after the 13th, Dwaisa. You missed the conversation on air. We all agreed. No more compliments after the 13th.
Oh, I missed out. My apologies.
No problem.
Because it's an old new year already. This Cathy, I'll try to be very quick. I want to contribute on the topic, yesterday's topic on the under-municipal watch. I called, but unfortunately I couldn't get through.
Okay, go for it, Dwaisa.
Yes, I'll be very quick. Kate, to sum up, I'm from that area. Actually, Zingolweni is under Renkonyen municipality, so I'm directly affected. I can only sum up the whole situation with two words, Katie and SAFM listeners. Leadership vacuum. That's all I can say. I'm going to give you very quick examples. The town, my Zingolweni town, as we speak, is not the only one. Is badly smelling because of uncollected refuse because of the strike, and two, this doesn't make sense at all. The road in my town right now will turn to a gravel and is dusty. You know what happened? Just be around the end of November. The old tower was removed by the contractor who was supposed to revamp or renew the road. It doesn't make sense because knowing very well that December was around the corner, the festive season. As we speak today, nothing has been done. We are suffering, and is unbelievable, is unbearable. And the last quick example in Renkonyen falls under Oko District Municipality. Oko District Municipality, as a district municipality, is tasked with providing mainly water. Katie, it has failed, dismally failed for the past 15 years, I'm not joking. And in 2021, the communities got so fed up and took it to the streets. That the protest took for 3 days. First day, second day, third day, no show up by the leadership, not at all. And the people got so frustrated. They began looting shops. It's something I cannot condone. Something wrong. And lastly, the big thing on the very the third day, they got so frustrated in such a way that they banned municipalities' offices. As we speak today, those municipalities are in ashes, and nothing has been done. And again, there was no leadership show up, not even from district, not even from provincial government.
Sure.
Quickly, I happened to have a chance to engage the mayor, who was Mrs. Mkwebu then, and in one of the mayoral imbizos. I said to her, we need to sit down under one roof and try to iron this out, because we cannot condone it. We can't afford another looting. And that was in April. And you know what she said to me? She said, I'm mixing water with oil. And come July unrest, the shops were looted. Not only looted, they were burned to ashes.
Okay.
The whole town. And that's why I'm saying two words: leadership vacuum. And I cannot understand, Sis Cathy, why at this day and age, after 15 years of dismal failing by to provide water, is not under administration.
Dwaisa?
What else?
Let's leave it there for this morning. Dwaisa out in Ezingolweni. Yeah, yesterday Municipal Watch, we focused on the Rengonyeni municipality. Imagine workers being on strike for almost 2 months now. They're not calling it a strike, not delivering essential services, and residents are having to pay for that. They've come together to try and take over some of the services. But as you can hear from Dwaisa, incredibly frustrating to live in a place like that. Chris, you're in Lydenburg. Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Go for it, Chris.
Thanks. I think I just want to respond to the issue of more universities that needs to be built. I necessarily don't think that should be the case. I think if you look in the last 30 years, we need to reimagine the South African economy, because largely it has remained the same. It hasn't changed. If we don't reimagine the structure and the architecture of the economy, we can have as many universities as possible and enroll as many graduates. But then when they graduate and come out of university, they still face another hurdle of finding employment. I was having a chat with a friend this week that, you know, during our days, 20 years or so ago, when we left university, it was unheard of for medical students to graduate and just sit at home because they were highly sought after. So I think the government as a whole needs to reimagine the architecture of the economy as to how we can move this economy forward. Because at the moment, the economy is static. It's not moving. Our graduates can still come out of school with good qualifications in engineering and medicine, highly sought after qualifications, but they cannot be absorbed in the economy. A few years ago,
although Chris, I think when it comes to graduate unemployment, yes, there are absolutely graduates who are sitting home unemployed, but we mustn't overemphasize those numbers, because graduate unemployment in South Africa is still the lowest across the spectrum. So if you have a degree in this country, you're still more likely to get employment than anybody else.
Correct, I agree. But sometimes it's not employment in your chosen specific field of study. So I think for me, personally, I think we need to reimagine the economy. I'm in the mining space, and I think there's a huge opportunity for government to look at manufacturing and resuscitating manufacturing in this country, because if you look at it, a lot of our raw minerals are exported raw as they are to various parts of the world, and we miss out on that opportunity to beneficiate and resuscitate our manufacturing. Recently, ArcelorMittal apparently are closing down their smelters because of the high cost of electricity, among others. And that's a missed and lost opportunity, in my opinion, that I think the government should just happen and look at in terms of how to reimagine this economy.
I agree with you 100%, Chris, 100%. Chris out in Lydenburg. Speaking of ArcelorMittal, Mbowana and Mafigeng, that's what you want to talk about this morning.
Yes, good morning. Yeah, you see, ArcelorMittal's problem started from 2009. There's a mine called Kumba Mine in Tabasimbi. That was the mine which was supplying manganese. And then that mine went bankrupt in 2009. And what happened next? ArcelorMittal was complaining to say they're receiving no more orders because why the Chinese are supplying metals which is cheaper. So to my surprise, the same Chinese went to Kuruman in Northern Cape and opened the mines there and exporting the same manganese to China. And when it comes back, it's a sort of metal. So they are already in a big problem from 2009. It's not a new problem. This problem was there before.
I hear you, Mbowana, but as Chris was saying just before you, the impact of this is absolutely devastating for the communities in which this company has been operating and the jobs that are on the line.
Yeah, that's what we say. We rather focus into mining, farming business than mining, because mining is all bringing problems. Look at how many ghost towns do we have in the country currently. So it's not bringing anything to us, it's bringing more problems into our life.
Can we honestly say that, Mbowana, when you look at the contribution of mining overall to our country's GDP, it still in many ways is the backbone of our economy?
But it's not contributing to the ordinary people on the street, because why? In other countries, what they do, before the company come to the country and start mining, they always consider what is the community going to benefit out of such projects. But today we find out the ghost towns that we have, the roads, how it look like, the infrastructure, how it look like. So we have to change our policies to benefit the local.
Absolutely, Mbowana. By all means, let's ensure that mining is something that is more beneficial to communities, that it's not just an extractive industry that is also harmful not only to the environment but communities in ways that we have seen. But 6.2% to South Africa's GDP, that's 202 billion rand. That mining contributed to our economy in just 2023. Those are some of the figures that I'm reading now. So it is still very much a significant contributor to our country's economy. So to say, let's forget about mining and focus on agriculture, no. Let's focus on agriculture, but let's still also focus on mining, right? Is the reality. It's the open line. I'm still taking your call. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. 086 000 2032 on the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. I still also want to hear from you. How far and how concerned are you when it comes to social media apps and whether or not they're tracking you, whether they're surveilling you? Concerned enough to say that we as a country should be looking at additional steps or interventions to better protect ourselves? This is in light of the pending TikTok ban in the US that is potentially coming up this weekend. I wonder what would happen if we banned TikTok in South Africa. Ooh, all the piano dancers. Oh my gosh. It will be an outcry. Huh? Where else are people going to do their challenges, their dancing challenges? All right. I'm going to take a break. Back with more of your calls.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? At Specsavers, get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 Rand. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Wekundu Wamsimbazi are playing for maximum points to finish top of Group A. But CSC strongly believe that their first position belongs to them. This is the top table clash of the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the delight of African football. Simba Sports Club versus CS Constantine. This Sunday, 19 January at 3 p.m. Live on SABC1. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hi, I'm Cathy Mohlahlana, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mohlahlana. Because where words fail, music speaks.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Oranges boys want to wrap up their group campaign on a winning note, while Stellies want to deliver a masterclass performance to triumph away from home. This is the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the joy of African football. RSB Pekane FC versus Stellenbosch FC on Sunday, 19 January at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Cathy, good morning. On a Friday morning, I'm Takatawi in Landi of Imvaba, Eastern Cape. Cathy, I so wish our government in these 30 years can just look back and ask herself that how did things go right before they took over in 1994? Because during the tenure of Tatuma Tanzima, Taliwonga, the Transkeian Prime Minister, things were right, man, Cathy. Yes, there was apartheid, there was those wrong things. But coming to roads, coming to the maintenance of roads, school, hospitals, I'm just counting a lot of them. Yes, there was no electricity in rural areas, but there was a lot of the good things. I so wish our government can stop this thing of tenders, Cathy, man. These things of tenders, we're just walking 10 steps forward and 50 steps backward because of tenders. Thanks, Cathy.
Morning, Cathy. Malisalene Mpumalanga, but originally from Limpopo. Cathy. Yes, we are being monitored without our knowledge. Just that unfortunately, South Africa is an ignorant country. My fellow South Africans are so ignorant, it's sad and funny at the same time. Funny because, you know, these people on Facebook, people who use Facebook, they have all these kinds of friends. They are chatting with them on Facebook Messenger. And all of a sudden comes up I don't know whether to say a survey or click here to see whether you'll be married or not, or click here to see your soulmate's initials. And the person will click there thinking that it's accurate and it'll tell them who their soulmate will be, only to find out that it's just algorithms based on where you are going on your phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many people fall prey to all sorts of these scams online? You're taking me back to last year. Remember that story we did on the number of people that lost monies, withdrew their pension funds from relationships that started online? Painful stuff. Salim, you're in Durban. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. See, I'm an ex-branch manager from Itala Bank.
Okay.
Cathy, you know, the way the Prudential Authority presented this matter suddenly this morning creates a panic
creates a panic for the people. Right now, if you look at it, the CEO is addressing the Itala staff. There's crowds of people outside Itala Bank. They're creating chaos. There should have been a better way to present this issue. Given notice, the CEO explained Itala Bank is not bankrupt. They have more deposits. The assets deposits exceeding their liabilities. There would have been. It's a responsibility of the Prudential Bank to have put this thing, give proper notice, and let the people know. Now, right now, it's such a panic. People are phoning me. People are going to run to the bank to draw the money. That's not a professional way to handle any serious issue. The panic amongst the people is, it's not good at all. It's not good at all for the reputation of the bank.
And Salim, as somebody who was part of the infrastructure of the bank, I mean, some of the challenges that have been raised, right, have been around the bank not being able to meet its own mandate in terms of supplying its financials for the last 2 years. They also have not been meeting some of the deadlines provided by the Prudential Authority, right, because they were never given a banking license. They were only given temporary exemption to receive deposits and to operate with the intention of them being able to be fully regularized at a particular date. But they were not able to do that. And that deadline was the 15th of December 2023 already. What would you say, the bank itself needed to have done differently? Also, knowing the process that they were involved in with the Prudential Authority?
Itala Bank is not a public entity. It's a government, it's owned by the provincial government. The government needed to help Itala Bank. Itala Bank hasn't got politicians that's running it. They've got proper business people that's running it. They were putting the things right to present it to them. They needed more time. And, there should have been extension given, and given Itala Bank should have been given more time to address the concerns that the Prudential Authority had. I think they're just rushing to jump onto the bank.
And Salim, this view that there are some powerful politicians in KZN that have a significant amount of influence at the banks. I mean, you remember with William Kize, right, when the COVID-19 allegations and the scandals broke out against him, many were pointing back to what happened at Itala Bank and how he allegedly was one of the big beneficiaries there.
See, Cathy, I can't comment on those issues, but I know it was something like, loan on the farm. But the farm is, profitable. I mean, the thing didn't go bad or anything. The media presents that in a particular way. And right now, they're just trying to put the bank into a bad light. Itala Bank helped the people of KwaZulu-Natal and the rural people and the poor people. They've done a lot to uplift the community of KwaZulu-Natal. And right now, to put this in a way that Itala Bank is in trouble and winding up and all, I think it's not done in a proper way. It should have been presented in a more professional and a better way.
Yeah.
So it's going to cause a run on the bank.
Salim, I hear you loud and clear. Salim out in Durban, and certainly after listening to the CEO of the bank this morning with my colleague, it does seem that the matter needed to be handled better. That communication, at least the opportunity for the bank to communicate with its clients should have been there. Billy Masha, you're in Skukune. Good morning.
Very good morning. How are you?
Good. Go for it, Billy.
Yes, sir. You see, the executive in Limpopo is got 10 MECs and the premier. And there are 5 executive mayors. But to my surprise, every time there's an incident anywhere in the province, the premiers all over there. Minor incidents. So I want to check, what are these other MECs doing on their portfolios? Because he seems to be overshadowing everyone. Mayors, local councillors, everything. I wonder who's running that office.
So number one, what is wrong with the Premier being and going around the province?
Nothing is wrong.
Okay.
She must prioritize. She must prioritize what is the event and incident she attends to. Can't attend for a road where there's always been a problem, or potholes going around here. But that obviously is big. She must manage it. Unless
she wants you to know that she's on the job, that she's in and around the province, that there's no corner she will not reach.
Which is a problem. If she wants us to know, we'll never know. We can know that she's on the job by doing what is right. Prioritizing what event and instance she has to attend, what level of it. Because there are MECs there, there are mayors there who can attend to such issues. How do you go and watch some
I don't know what you want, hey?
What
if
I
the
want
Premier stays in her office, you'll complain that you don't see her.
I'm not saying she must stay in the office. Remember when Jacob Zuma became the president? There were people who were just complaining about some minor things that she took a plane to attend to them. Hey, I'm the people's president. All of a sudden, everyone will just be doing everything for you to come. She must tell us who's actually running the office of the Premier, unless if there's still someone who's running that office, except her. But she's not running the office. She must be taken to task.
Okay.
She must run the office. We must see what will be the state of the province.
So you don't want to see her at the cutting of the ribbon of the opening of the tap ceremony? Or the closing of the pothole? Bye-bye, Billy. Sekhatli, you're in Mankweng. Good morning.
Good morning, Sis Cathy, and welcome to 2025. And compliments to everybody who is the listener of SFM. Let me use that 2 minutes cleverly. Cathy, I've been asking so many times about the R71. If sometimes you have chance towards things like TikToks, you'll see from Balei, which is the direction of either going to Polokwane or going to the side of Moria. We had to start there. We have to stay there for 3 hours on Monday because the water was like, it's not about, now I've been complaining about that R71. It's not about these heavy rain times. God blessed us with the rain. But some of the places, they ignored them for some times. And I've been talking about that. I've been talking about that we need the turning lanes, so that remember every time when you have to go to the right, you will be on the fast lane. So that means all vehicles that are coming from the back, they will be on the speed required on the road, either 120 or 80, doesn't matter. But the person who does not have a turning lane will have to stand in the turning lane so that he can or she can wait for upcoming traffic before she can turn. That means that all cars will bump each other from there into there, and this is what happened. R71 next to Balei, it's a disaster. They erected the bridge. They said the bridge cost 8 million. How possible that an 8 million bridge can behave in such a way? And then the last time you told me that you're gonna arrange the Polokwane municipality to come and respond. Remember that is a provincial road. Secondly, lastly, I'm so ashamed of our traditional leaders because those waters now is a result of those houses that were given, the sites of residents were given by the Maoshis. They knew very well that this is a place that cannot approve for the residential results. So then now the people, if you want a house in Mankweng now, you can just go to Google and then you'll find a double story that is costing about 80,000 because they've made those people to stay there while they knew. I know that some people sometimes they can't force and say, oh, it's okay here because traditional leaders, they like money. So what they did, they took the money, while they know that the place is behaving like a river during the rainy times. So the people now are in water.
Sure, Sekhatli, In Mangwen, yeah, thanks for calling in with that issue. The state of the R71 is still very much an issue that we continue to track. Maybe we need to, Sakatli must write a letter to the Premier's office that, you know, in all of these trips, this tour that she's on of the province, she must stop by there. Maybe you'll find an intervention. Maybe she'll be directing traffic in the morning. Oh, I've got to stop myself. Temba, you're in Heidelberg. Good morning.
Morning. How are you doing, Cathy?
Go for it, Temba.
Yes, Cathy. I want to talk about this still something issue. Yeah, in fact, I see some criminals, who have been rehabilitated from underground, whom might be sent to prison, but I hardly think they might remain there for more than 5 years, So they have learned a lesson underground. Not a lesson that crime doesn't pay, but the lesson that they have learned underground is the fact that that sort of criminality is very dangerous. So now we need to venture into other forms of criminality. So I see thousands of rehabilitated criminals of illegal minds venturing into other forms of criminality, being car hijacking, armed robbery, housebreaking, and stuff like that. So as Mafia, we are in big trouble. In fact, those morons, they should have been left there and died there. Yeah,
Okay, Temba.
We are in trouble.
Temba, let's leave it there. Temba out in Heidelberg. Yeah, I don't know about the sentiment, right, of leave people there to die. But absolutely the idea of what else some of these individuals could get up to absolutely gives one chills, given the criminality that has already been linked to those that are engaged in illegal mining activity. And that is backed up by the evidence. It's time for your latest news.
In our top stories, the bodies of 5 men discovered in Inanda and suspect arrested in connection with the matric marks leak. Good morning. The bodies of 5 men have been discovered in Inanda, Durban. A private security company, Reaction Unit South Africa, in a statement says its operations centre received multiple calls for assistance from residents and scholars in the vicinity of the Inanda Newtown Comprehensive High School this morning. Local residents pointed out the bodies of 3 men with injuries to the head. 2 more bodies were discovered nearby. The deceased are believed to have been hacked to death. The North West Health Department says pathologists are ready to start to get DNA from unidentified bodies retrieved from a disused mine in Stilfontein in the Northwest. Government-led operations have resulted in retrieving 78 bodies and bringing to the surface 246 illegal miners. The department spokesperson Tsegofatso Mutubedi.
The law dictates to us that we can only have a body between 30 days and 60 days. Beyond that, if we don't have any other means of verification, or if anybody comes up, we are able to extract DNA tests and archive them and bury them. And maybe later 2-3 years or whatever time later, we are able to say, if someone comes and say, we want to have our loved one back, we are able to then conduct DNA to confirm the families and then repatriate all these bodies.
The Hawks have confirmed the arrest of a 21-year-old suspect in the online leakage of matric results. The Basic Education Department launched a complaint that matric results were being sold for about 100 rand on the internet last weekend. This was ahead of the release of the results earlier this week. Nomtsikilelo Mtabele.
The Hawks descended upon a house in Hillcrest, north of Johannesburg, after their search and seizure warrant was approved. The Hawks proceeded to the identified premises where a 21-year-old man and his parents were residing. During the search, various electronic gadgets and an unlicensed shotgun with live ammunition were found, and further investigation into the matric result leakage will continue.
The city of Cape Town says it has managed to contain a fire that gutted several structures in an informal settlement in Langan, the Cape Flats, in the early hours of this morning. The city's Fire and Rescue Services spokesperson, Jermaine Carlser, says firefighters from the Epping Fire Station who responded to an emergency call requested additional help due to the density of the area. 40 firefighters battled to control the blaze. Carlser says the fire has displaced many people. No injuries or fatalities have been reported. The cause of the fire is still unknown. And finally, last year saw the fastest annual rise in the concentration of carbon dioxide the atmosphere ever recorded. That's according to Britain's Met Office. Levels of the planet-warming gas increased 426 parts per million, more than twice pre-industrial levels. The BBC's Justin Romberg reports.
1.5 degrees of warming was the ceiling the world agreed to try to stay within at a landmark UN climate summit in Paris a decade ago. Scientists say above that, the impacts of climate change will be even more dangerous. But the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is now increasing at a rate that puts that target virtually out of reach. The Met Office predicts the increase in CO2 concentration this year will be less extreme, but still significantly off track to meet the 1.5 degree target.
Recapping the top story, the bodies of 5 men have been discovered in Inanda, Durban. The deceased are believed to have been hacked to death. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
The Bees want to be all over the pitch and keep the 3 points on home ground.
It could be tight to Brentford. There's wishes in here. Brentford have got 5 goals at St Mary's.
Meanwhile, the Reds want to emphasize that they will never walk alone, but with victory.
Lovely ball. Gakpo. Goal! Brilliant as well, as ever, from Cody Gakpo.
This is the Premier League, striving for excellence. Experience the glittering encounter between Brentford FC and Liverpool FC on Saturday, 18 January at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
It's 8 after 10 o'clock. Welcome to the second hour of the show. Coming up in this hour, we're going to be focusing on the NHI and ideas on how to break the deadlock around the NHI, because it does continue to be a hot potato, not only from a legal point of view. You have all sorts of stakeholders within the sector concerned around how exactly the NHI is going to be implemented. But of course, it also is a very hot political potato, and often we see the politics overriding the conversation around the actual implementation, the practical implementation of the NHI. So coming up in this hour, we're going to be reflecting on that with one of our guests, and also bringing in some of the voices of what the different stakeholders have had to say. Before we get into it, your WhatsApp voice notes from the open line.
Well, the caller who says let's build more universities so that we can accommodate
most students who are passing with bachelors and are sitting at home because universities are limited. No, it's a Cinderella. We're going around the circles because it's a snowball things. We are going to produce more matriculants because we want a zero drop rate so that majority reach grade 12, and we want higher pass rate. More will be produced. Universities will not take more. Now we have to build more universities to take more students. Then we will have more graduates who are sitting at home, because already now more graduates are sitting at home. Because our economy is not structured well, it's not growing, it's not creating employment for even the dropouts, even those who don't have bachelors and diplomas.
House Cathy, good morning, and to your guest, and Happy New Year. According to me, in my province, agriculture is neglected. So that is why somehow you didn't see much more of a contribution on the side of agriculture. Because of our officials here, they are not actually capable. They are just there sitting at offices to loot and stealing the money, not to assist the emerging farmers. So it is very sad, my sister, to see our people living in poverty while they are having a land that can make a living out from it. That's my take, my sister. A.R. Hawus in Taung.
Good morning, Cathy and the listeners. You know what the listeners just alluded to about the universities is so hectic, because at the moment, one of those guys who are working for the university, and most of the students are qualified now, and they are also having their doctoral, and there's no space for them to can be adopted into the institution for them to work as lecturers or whatsoever. And at the same time, the issue of bachelor's pass, I'm still reiterating on it, because I said it even before that it's not balanced. So now we are producing a lot again of those doctoral who are also going to stay outside not doing anything. Let me just stop here, because I've got a lot to say, but if you have any chance, you can please contact me. Thank you.
Good morning, Cathy. Cathy Mataboche is my surname. Cathy, quickly, man. I think we need to have Competition Commission and the Department of Education, especially basic education, to come deal with the issue of school fees. The school fees in South Africa expensive, and over and above the school fees, you have other things that you have to buy, such as stationery, tissues, and whatever. Some of them are not necessary, some are necessary, and someone must come, or some people must come on your platform to debate this and perhaps find a possible way of addressing this concern from the parents. Thank you.
Things are happening very fast and changing. I remember when I was doing my Form 2, long time ago, some teacher was saying in Britain, for someone to do domestic work and cleaning, you need to have matric, and we love to say it can never happen, because to our time, you just pass matric with exemptions. Universities and colleges will be waiting for you. We went to technicons with matric exemption, MD, and they ask us, what are you doing here? You're wasting your time. You must go to universities. And by then, we're coming from low-class families. We said we want to have diploma first. We'll work, we'll study when we proceed. But today, with that bachelor, you will not be admitted to the university. You will be sometimes not even admitted at technicon. You may be sitting at home. Doctors without work.
Cathy, hi. I assume I agree with Billy, because there is no need for the minister or for the president to come and just talk, but do nothing. I mean, like, even if you don't come, as long as, let's say, for an example, the roads are fixed, people have water and all those things, then there's no need for you to come because you are doing the job. But for you to come and just talk and do nothing, to me, it's useless. Skosana here.
SAFM leading the conversation.
After a 1-0 draw in Morocco during the first 90 minutes, Masandawana and the leader are both hungry to wrap up the group campaign with a win. The South locks horns with the North. This is the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Witness the thrilling flavor of African football. Mamelodi Sundowns FC versus AS Farabat FC on Sunday, 19 January at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The SAFM Playwriting Competition is closing on the 3rd of February 2025. Explore the theatre of the mind and write your 60-minute radio drama play and email it before 5 p.m. on the 3rd of February 2025. Late submissions will not be accepted. For further information about the competition, visit safm.co.za or send an email to drama@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Well, let's get into our 10 o'clock conversation now, focusing on the NHI and a call then for open minds in terms of unlocking the deadlock on the NHI. These are the sentiments that have been expressed by Zweli Bashman, who's the MD of MSD Sub-Saharan Africa. And he's been looking at the different voices that have contributed to the conversation around the NHI, and he's calling for more open minds in terms of addressing what seem to be insurmountable differences, right? Particularly when you look at the position that has been put forth by the ANC, and then you also take in the position that is carried by other parties, including the Democratic Alliance, Solidarity, AfroForum, all of those that have been very vehemently opposed to the implementation of the NHI. But this story is not about politics, and one could get confused about that. It is actually about the provision of universal health care. Which I think is something that we can all agree to, that number one, we need universal healthcare, and number two, we need more accessible costs related to healthcare. So let me welcome Zweli onto the show then. Zweli, good morning to you. Thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about, firstly, what got you into looking at, well, how can we begin to understand this deadlock that we are seeing? And as I've mentioned, I would say that it's beyond the political players, right? Because you also have the health sector, by and large, at least different components in the health sector, very dissatisfied with what has currently been drafted as the NHI implementation strategy in the country, the draft legislation that is in place.
100%, Cathy. I think the thing that got me looking at this matter and really trying to delve into it was that it became clear that at no point did we disagree with the need for NHI. And I always say in my engagements with policymakers, I seldom disagree with them with regards to what needs to happen. But there was a significant chasm that existed around the how. And that's almost always the challenge. And as I looked specifically at this particular challenge around NHI, was that the discussion and the points of differentiation at this current point in time are largely based on theory and ideology, because we haven't yet seen the nuts and bolts of what NHI will be. So To simplify that, the regulations that will operationalize NHI are yet to be published. The money bill and the budgets aren't clear. The benefits package, which will be the belly of the healthcare ecosystem, is not yet known. But based on what we do know at this current point in time, it would not be sustainable and certainly won't lead to progressive realization of healthcare rights for all. Effectively, what we have at the moment is something that says we will overlay the current public healthcare ecosystem or public healthcare services onto the private sector. And I don't think that that's really what we need to do. And we also know that sort of monopsony and monopoly systems do not lend themselves to innovation and continuous improvement. And so I felt that this was the right time to start seeding these ideas into the market and the various policymakers that we engage on, because it does present us with the perfect environment to introduce changes that will have a far-lasting impact on the availability and accessibility of healthcare, but also allow us to introduce innovation in a meaningful way to the broadest possible population of South Africans.
So, Zweli, when you then look at part of what has been said about the NHI, at the heart of it, right, is this idea of creating universal access to healthcare. How do you think that this conversation can be had in a way that actually allows us to deal with that issue and not really get lost in the politics of it all? So how do we even separate the two issues?
I think the first thing that needs to happen, it needs to stop being a discussion around procurement of healthcare products and services, because that's where it ends up kind of revolving. When you're talking about building a sustainable and accessible healthcare ecosystem, I think there's three things, particularly in the South African continent context, that we need to take into consideration. Number one, reducing the burden on the public healthcare sector. And that can be done in a multitude of different ways. And we need to investigate those ways, one of which is really, number one, introducing mandatory insurance for all employed people. Number two, expanding public-private partnerships like the Unjani clinic networks to ensure that you broaden and improve the accessibility of quality primary healthcare services. The second thing that I think needs to happen is a real focus on capacity building. Capacity building in terms of building infrastructure. We've done a terrible job with regards to building hospitals in the post-1994 South Africa. If memory serves me correct, we've only built one tertiary hospital in the past 30 years. And by building more infrastructure and availing better space, you're able to absorb more people in a less crowded and give a better quality service. Infrastructure also speaks to building quality specialized services such as oncology, and then also increasing the number of doctors and nurses to reduce the ratio of patient to healthcare practitioner, because that becomes a cornerstone of a functional healthcare ecosystem. We're not spending enough time zooming into that, because without those two things, it certainly isn't going to work. And then I think the third thing that we need to look at is to say, how do we go beyond what is a very restrictive essential drugs list? We are often hearing of people not being able to access innovative healthcare, particularly in rare diseases and cancer in the public healthcare ecosystem. And part of the reason for that is that we are really not looking at global best practice, which would allow us to introduce innovative, expanded access programs that are based on the principles of healthcare equity, to ensure that as many people as possible are able to sort of gain access to these innovations. What we tend to do, and this discussion around NHI tends to really oscillate around the procurement element, and the reality is this problem is far bigger than that.
Do you get the sense that on the issue of the burden that the healthcare sector faces, right? And I would say that is two-pronged. In the public sector, of course, you're just dealing with issues of volumes. You just have too many patients, not enough staff, not enough professionals to be able to deal with the high numbers. So there's a lack of capacity there. In the private sector, you're also dealing with a system that is overburdened, but ironically, by people sometimes that don't even need to be going to the doctor, right? They don't even need the services of specialists whose conditions could be treated maybe by a general practitioner, maybe even just by getting over-the-counter medication. And I'm using that, thinking about the market inquiry into healthcare as a basis for what I'm saying. And one wonders then the ways in which our health sector more holistically needs to be asking questions around how we deal with both of these issues that affect the private and the public sector so differently, but lead to issues of capacity nonetheless. And when we think about, again, the burdening of the public sector, and you listen to what the private sector has to say about the NHI, they see a situation where public sector patients are dumped on their shoulders, and they're just like, well, no, we don't want this, we're not ready for this, it's your mess, you deal with it effectively.
So I think the public sector challenges are certainly broader than just volume. Certainly, the one and most visible issue is volume. But the other issues that are just as critical are around the availability of infrastructure, as well as a limited benefits package. So very limited availability of high-tech, innovative medicines that could deal with some of the very challenging healthcare conditions that people may have. And I don't think that we've spent enough time trying to solve for all of those things concurrently. I certainly do also believe that with the capability and capacity that exists within the public sector, there is space for some of those volume constraints to be addressed via public-private partnerships with the private sector to reduce that burden on the public sector. But we can't run away from the fact that hard and fast investments need to be made in order to ensure long-term sustainability of this ecosystem, particularly the one that services the majority of our population. You can't have a healthcare ecosystem without hospitals. You can't have a quality oncology service without building, quality oncology centers. And we haven't done that. And I think that's where we need to start. You simply can't overlay the challenges of the public sector onto the private sector and think that you're solving the problem, because you're not.
Let's talk about improving the quality of standards, because that's another issue that you reflect on. I think the health department is currently the department that sits with the highest number of litigation cases in as far as being sued due to medical legal matters that the department faces. And that goes down to the issue of standards. Yes, there may be, matters where unscrupulous lawyers are getting involved in trying to milk the state for all that it's worth. But the point is that if you have a broken system that creates a gap for that to be even happening in the first place is an issue, and it goes down to standards.
I mean, I completely agree with you, and I think it also boils down to having an overburdened ecosystem with not the right amount of healthcare practitioners. The doctors overworked, they work long hours, and things happen which impact the quality of healthcare service that is given to patients out there. But then again, you go back to the question, does the NHI as we see it today resolve those issues? And the answer is no. There's a bigger, more fundamental issue that needs to get resolved, and that's with regards to infrastructure, number of healthcare practitioners that are in the system, and reducing the burden on those healthcare practitioners so that they can provide a better quality service to patients out there. And so on that basis, again, I'm led to go back to that very initial statement that I made, that one has to fix the infrastructure issues that we've got, as well as improve the capacity and capability of our healthcare practitioners before you start thinking about all the other things.
We'll continue the conversation in a moment. We are focusing on the NHI, as Willie Bashman is the MD of MSD Sub-Saharan Africa, and he's calling for open minds. Well, what exactly does he mean by open minds when it comes to unlocking the tensions and the deadlock over the NHI? We'll give him an opportunity to continue expanding on it further. For now, it's 10:30. Time for your latest news headlines.
Good morning. In the headlines, police have launched a manhunt for suspects after the bodies of 5 men were found in Inanda, KwaZulu-Natal. The deceased are believed to be aged between 19 and 26. The Northwest Health Department says pathologists are ready to start to get DNA from unidentified bodies retrieved from a disused mine in Stilfontein in the Northwest. And scientists are warning that invasive species of frogs, lizards, snakes and insects are entering northern Europe in shipments of cut flowers and potted plants. I'll have details on these and other stories at 11.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand is currently trading at 18 rand 74 to the dollar, 22 rand 84 to the pound and 19 rand 28 to the euro. Markets in Asia were mixed at the closing bell, the JSE mainly higher in mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe have extended gains. Gold is trading at $2,709, platinum $931 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $81.79 a barrel.
Owning a small or medium-sized business takes courage, skill, and determination. The Clientele Legal Business Plan is there to protect, guide, and assist your business in managing the legal risks. Let us handle your labor matters, employment contracts, CCMA referrals, and so much more. Our team of professional lawyers are standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 42770. That's SAFM to 42770. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll get a fantastic price for your car. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
After a 0-all draw at Orlando in December, the Northern and Southern African Giants meet again. The Red Devils want to create a happy mood for their fans, but the Buccaneers want to destroy the Pyramids by collecting maximum points. This is the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Witness the incredible flavor of African football. Al Ahly Sporting Club versus Orlando Pirates FC on Saturday, 18 January at 6 p.m. live on SABC2. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
What we are against is using a bill and saying to people, by signing this bill, all those problems are going to go away. They are not going to go away. You are not going to immediately and magically get better services from healthcare, from state hospitals, unless government takes a point of making sure that they commit themselves to Section 27 of the Constitution and fix what is broken. That is more difficult to the ANC government than actually admitting that we have failed the people of South Africa for the past 30 years. We have not kept up with the needs of people in terms of the public healthcare system. And now what we're doing, we're scapegoating and we're saying the 15% of people who are getting better healthcare because they are paying for it are the problem. That's not the problem. The problem here is that you have not been able to keep the quality of care at the level at which it shouldn't matter whether you go to a Mediclinic or you go to Baragwanath Hospital. But that is government's responsibility. It is not the private sector's responsibility to make sure that they either lower their standard or up their standard to suit your needs as government. As government, you have a constitutional obligation to make sure that wherever people go to access healthcare, they have quality healthcare.
Yes, Unati, we are still very much against the NHI bill as it were. Well, we can call it the NHI law now, as it was proposed and as it was accepted. Because in our view, this will not lead to better healthcare outcomes for everyone in South Africa, and it will corrupt the state. It will corrupt the taxpayer. South Africa simply cannot afford to implement such a system. We see even first world countries not being able to implement similar systems. A good starting place would be, why are we in this economic mess where people can't afford private healthcare in the first place? And then that's one thing to address. Both the affordability of private healthcare is very far from perfect. So why are regulations keeping private medical schemes so expensive? Why are they being actively prevented by laws and regulations from offering affordable coverage to poor people? In our view, all working people at the very least should be able to afford a measure of private healthcare, and regulations have to change to allow that. But the NHI is not the way to do this, because we simply cannot afford that.
That was the voice of Tiens Du Boysen. He is with Solidarity. He's an economic researcher there. And before him, you heard the former DA Chief Whip, Siviwe Gwagube. She's now the Education Minister at the time, speaking about the NHI and why her party is opposed to it. That clip, of course, was those comments were made just before the formation of the Government of National Unity. It's important for me to state that context. The point, though, that I think is being expressed from both those clips is, the sense that you have parties that are unwilling to move from their position in as far as what they think about the NHI and whether or not they support the current draft legislation around the implementation of the NHI. So, Zweli, when you then talk about open minds in breaking the deadlock, what does having an open mind in a scenario like this mean for all of the different role players involved? What would they need to be doing to show that open-mindedness? What is it that they would need to be saying to show that open-mindedness?
I think if I would use the recent occurrences as an example, there was engagement between BUSA and the presidency as well as the Ministry of Health towards the latter part of last year, where BUSA was requested to table proposals with regards to some of the challenges that it had raised. That proposal was tabled to the presidency, and I was watching an SABC news show earlier this week that featured the Minister of Health, who indicated that that proposal was sitting on their desk and they were going through it. Now, I think, in my perspective, a meaningful engagement would have been to have both parties sitting across the table working through that proposal. because I'm almost certain I have an idea of what the response from the ministry will be. And that will probably be because they don't necessarily understand the context of what is written. When you're implementing or trying to shape solutions, it seldom is ever what you end up operationalizing is seldom what is on that first proposal. So you have to talk and work through how we bring these solutions to life. And we don't do that. We find that the engagement processes, whether it be the parliamentary process or the NCOP process and the public engagement processes, those are really inefficient. As a matter of fact, if you look at throughout the process, all the submissions that were made were not taken into consideration, and the bill didn't change in any way. And so, for me, I think that's the big thing that lacks. We talk a good game around engagement, but it's not really engagement. And we need to co-create these solutions and need to move beyond assuming that it is one solve. This thing can only be fixed by introducing a multitude of solutions. Some are going to address the issue around patient burden as well as infrastructure. Some are going to address the issues around healthcare practitioners and the numbers and the healthcare practitioner-patient ratio. Some are going to address the issue around how do we broaden the benefits package and move beyond a restrictive essential drugs list in order to ensure all patients are able to access innovation.
So ultimately then, the process of listening meaningfully, and I guess on the one hand, right, you have government ultimately that, yes, may want to listen for as long as possible, but also has to get down to the work of formulating policy and doing what it believes needs to be done. So given where things are right now, because this issue of being brought on as stakeholders, how people feel that they are listened to or not listened to has been a driving factor behind even the rejection of the NHI in its current format. How do you think that practically can change going forward? Tensions in the room are already high. Matters are already before the court. Is there a way in which you potentially see all of this being reversed and getting people back around the table?
So I think the first thing that will work in our favor is that we're eagerly awaiting to have a look at the regulations that the minister mentioned that are due to be published, because that's really going to speak to how this thing is going to be operationalized. What is definitely going to happen, though, and what I think we've missed an opportunity, is that this thing is going to get tied up in extensive multiple legal processes. I think, as far as I'm aware, there's already 3 legal challenges that are underway. As more information comes out, as the regulations come out, etc., as the benefits package comes out, you may find there may be a series of further legal challenges that will be lodged. And that is going to further delay the implementation of a sort of universal healthcare coverage. What I believe we should be doing now is we should all be sitting across from the table and practically solving for the different pockets of challenges that have been highlighted. And that's not a difficult thing to do. You move the discussion beyond being a debate where there's he said, she said, into the realm of saying we agree on the problem statement. What are the various solutions that we can implement? Which ones are we agreed on and comfortable with? Which ones aren't we? And then you start actioning that way. And if we approached challenges of this nature in that way, you would find that number one, we would move with a lot more speed, but number two, there would be a greater level of cohesiveness between the various economic sections that are struggling to engage on this matter.
Morning, Cathy. My name is Chris in Durban. I think there's a lot of unlearning, as well as the language that we use needs to be changed. So firstly, the mindset must begin to talk about what is in the interest of the population, health and welfare. That is what we need to do. How that gets delivered, whether it's public or private and who can afford it, becomes secondary. What is in the interest of the public is what must drive the discussion, including how do we train for the public.
Hi, Cathy. Rudy here from the Western Cape. Whichever way we cut the conversation on the NHI, it will remain ideological because in effect it is a discussion and a debate on the political settlement of South Africa between the haves and the have-nots. And so in a sense, no matter how you slice and dice the ideological components or how the nuts and bolts and modalities of the NHI will look, it will always come back to the historical apartheid of health within South Africa for those who can access and for those who can access only measly services. And so the question about the NHI must be held within a broader question of restitutional justice within the South African context. That's really the broader conversation that needs to take place there. Thank you.
Yeah, really strong input there from our listeners. This idea of an element of restitution, right? When you think about the role that the NHI can play and leveling the playing field yet again in what is the most unequal country in the world, and then centering the interests of the public in the conversation and not the interests of the government and not the interests of the private players. Zweli, let me get your views on that.
Look, I think one can't run away from the socioeconomic and historical challenges of South Africa. My big thing is I'm a big believer in sustainable solutions. And I cannot see how, by simply overlaying one on top of the other, that you're tangibly going to fix the problem. I think about a patient, in Soweto. How does NHI change that person's life? Because under NHI, they would still have to go to the very same burdened Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital to obtain tertiary healthcare services. They would still have to go to a general practitioner who will also be overburdened in their geography to obtain healthcare. They would still be receiving a very limited healthcare benefits package that's based on what's currently available in the public healthcare ecosystem. So in essence, that person's life under NHI is not going to change. And so are we really making tangible interventions? If we were to add more healthcare practitioners into that geography, if we were to build more hospitals with better infrastructure, more oncology systems, better specialists within that geography, if we were to allow within that ecosystem to have a more complex, innovative benefits package, then you're tangibly changing the person's life. But just cosmetically saying that we're moving to NHI and not making the tangible changes that will result in progressive healthcare rights for all, for me is really not the way to go. And I know it's an uncomfortable conversation because I too come from those environments. I grew up in Khayelitsha in Cape Town and KwaNobuhle in a small town called Uitenhage. I know what broken healthcare ecosystems are like. And unfortunately, for the lives of those people that I grew up with, NHI is not going to change anything, really.
We're going to continue the conversation shortly.
TP Mazembe targets a highly spirited performance to wrap up the group stage with a consolation victory, while Sudanese giants Al Hilal vividly want to triumph to remain on the summit of Group A. The bottom versus the top. This is the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Experience the beauty of African football. TP Mazembe FC takes on Al Hilal FC this Saturday, 18 January at 3 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Be in it to win it by playing Powerball and Powerball Plus for 115 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday. You heard right. Play Powerball for an estimated 86 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 29 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. eTuba is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Cathy Mohlahlana on SAFM.
All other countries are moving to mandatory prepayment. Now NHI is mandatory prepayment. The World Organization called universal health coverage. Not universal health care as people are saying. It's universal health coverage means everybody must be covered with the money that is available for health. We are going to make a rule. Every child, regardless of which home they come from, must have an eye test, hearing, oral hygiene. That is going to be our first. We will cost it and show the nation that our first step of NHI is this. All kids. Our next step, pregnant women. We will draw a program where every woman who's pregnant know their package, that they can go and see a GP 4 times during the pregnancy, and a specialist 2 times, and a CT scan 2 times. That is very much affordable. We can afford it. And I can go on and on and on. Those are the things you'll cost. You can't cost the whole NHI.
Well, that day is the voice of Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, the health minister and a long-standing advocate for the NHI. Zweli Bashman is the MD of MSD Sub-Saharan Africa. We've been reflecting on just some of the opinions that he's been venturing in as far as how it is that he believes we can break the deadlock when it comes to the discussion and the debate around the NHI. Vincent, you are in Midrand. Good morning.
Hi, Cathy. Good morning. I think I need to just put this thing across, and I'm wishing even the ministry is listening to this. South Africa is in an opportunity space today to utilize NHI to address, amongst other things, unemployment. I'll put it this way. South Africa has 400 public hospitals, 200 private hospitals. Now, let's talk about the public hospitals and connect it to NHI and take the view. They have a projected estimation in 2024 of an expenditure of about 275 billion. That is going onto the health side, which is about 12%. But what I would think South Africa needs to do today is to then divide this 400 into 2 and say, okay, let's take an expenditure of 200 billion and go and resuscitate 200 hospitals at $1 billion each. If you think about the surrounding area of that hospital, you hire youth today to do the painting led by painters. You hire people that put new TVs, new carpets, and perhaps you also make some small factory to manufacture beds, which then goes into the hospitals. So the amount of work you create during the rehabilitation of the hospital at $1 billion each becomes quite significant. But further than that, for it to be sustainable, you create, in the olden days when we grow up, some of us, there used to be a private ward and a public ward. So you create a public ward and a private ward, and then you set them up. And then you then go out and say, okay, can anyone that is interested to go to the private ward when they go to the hospital have a membership card that only pays 600 rand a month for 5 for a family of 5. And what it does is that just for 1 million people paying 620, you already are driving over $500 million, which is the money that comes in every month. So this becomes an affordability space where medium to rich people can start spending that. Now you can only imagine that capital becomes available every month. Then you are able to push proper doctors into this and start creating an enabling environment of doctors being paid and proper doctors to be in the hospital. Then you go on. Things like your tablets can be used at the hospital. You hire this youth of today who did IT to say when Cathy is on her way to the hospital, Cathy could already say, this is my private ward code. Cathy, this is where I'm broken. And then Cathy could be accepted directly to where she needs to go and immediately admitted to the space she needs to go. And also, annual budgets thereafter becomes the capital that gets to be used to buy major equipment in hospital now, like theater. Becomes annual. There's hospital, they can hire a lot of, we can do a lot. So the budgets are there. People must just focus and stop all the politicking around these things.
Okay, Vincent? All right, we'll have to leave it there. Vincent out in Midrand, pointing to all of the different opportunities that the NHI could potentially represent, saying that let's rather focus on what those opportunities could be. Mr. Tenga, you are in Cape Town. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. I just have one thing that I will just try to expand on it. What I wanted to say is that if this bill is not passed, it will not be fair to the general public, because the majority of those who claim to afford did not get the jobs through fair processes. In this country, we had a lot of nepotism, and where families created opportunities for each other. And those who did not have people who can help them get opportunities were always left outside. Some of these people with qualifications. So now, as I'm saying this, maybe where to start for these people to understand, especially those who are saying the NHI bill must not be passed. They may allow us to start an inquiry on how certain people got employed in certain positions. That's one thing that I wanted to say. The other thing is, I would want to say, I don't want to say much about those who benefited from apartheid, who were opposing the Bila bill, the Bila, that one which was talking about the education.
Yes, it's the Bella bill.
Thank you very much. And now they are also opposing the NHI. On my side, I'm seeing people who are opposing everything that is coming with the black government. Now, as we are sitting here, I don't see the reason why we should still be talking about ANC when we have got the government of national unity. And maybe last, if not last, where maybe all these things were going to be solved, where at the end of the day everybody was going to benefit. It was if we were to agree on the expropriation of land without compensation, because it is from the land where all the socio-economic problems we can be able to get the solution from.
Okay.
So it's from the land.
Okay.
In closing, in this country, it is only the province of Western Cape where they don't have the two forms of leadership, the tribal authority system and the political leadership. It is only the political leadership. Whatever you want to do in this country, you only have to go through the city of Cape Town. But in other provinces, we have got the tribal authority and the political system. All these things, we have got the land that belongs to the tribal authority system, and we also have the land that belongs to white people. Our ANC government does not own the land, if I can put it that way. And if they were to own the land, I'm telling you, all the problems that we have, they would have been solved the same way.
Yeah,
where all those countries
no,
development.
Mr. Tenga, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. There's a lot of land that is government owned that we know to date. The efforts from government on the issue of expropriation of land has just been dismal. The record there is absolutely dismal, and the evidence speaks for itself. So I don't agree that necessarily the inaction of the government in that regard is as a result of the lack of access to the land. Zweli, let me then come to you perhaps and give you the opportunity to give your concluding remarks. The reality is that you and I have conversations like this, but we know that what is unfolding at a policy level, very, very different.
100%. And I think it's fully understandable that this is an emotive matter amongst South Africans. I certainly know that amongst the people that I've engaged with, particularly in the business sphere, there's no one who's not supportive of the NHI Act. And everyone believes that it's an important intervention to make within South Africa. Where we disagree are with certain details within the Act. And as you know, with most things, the devil's in the detail. And we are saying we should utilize this opportunity to panel beat those challenges and come up with something that we think is mutually palatable. You can't do that via email. You can't do that by kind of having these debates virtually. You literally have to sit across the table and co-create and work on these issues. We are not dealing with problems that haven't been dealt with elsewhere in the world. And so we need to leverage global best practice to ensure that we can come out with a healthcare ecosystem that suits our needs. And there's three things we need to focus on.
Okay.
Building capability and infrastructure, increasing the number of healthcare practitioners, and working on improving the benefits package by including innovative sort of access programs.
Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time.
In our top stories, police launch a manhunt for Inanda murder suspects and doctors march in Mpumalanga to demand jobs. Good morning. Police have launched a manhunt for suspects after the bodies of 5 men were found in Inanda, KwaZulu-Natal. The deceased are believed to be aged between 19 and 26. Police believe the men were kidnapped from their homes around midnight. Community members found the bodies this morning. Provincial Police spokesperson Robert Nechihunda.
Police responded to reports of multiple murders, and upon arrival at the crime scenes, 3 bodies were found at a sports ground near a school, whereas the other 2 bodies were discovered at another field about a kilometer away from the first crime scene. The motive of the killing is unknown at this stage, and police are appealing to anyone who might have information regarding the whereabouts of the suspects to contact the nearest police station or call the Crime Stop number 08600 101.
In Mpumalanga, police have launched a manhunt for suspects following the murder of a police officer in Emelo. Lieutenant Colonel Pete Pretorius was gunned down while driving a state vehicle yesterday afternoon. Provincial Police spokesperson Jabu Ndubane says the vehicle is riddled with bullet holes. He says the attackers fled the crime scene in a white car. He has called on anyone with information to call 086 0010 111 or contact the nearest police station. The North West Health Department says pathologists are ready to start to get DNA from unidentified bodies retrieved from a disused mine in Stilfontein in the Northwest. Government-led operations have resulted in retrieving 78 bodies and bringing to the surface 246 illegal miners. The department spokesperson, Tsehofatso Mutubedi.
The law dictates to us that we can only have a body between 30 days and 60 days. Beyond that, if we don't have any other means of verification, or if anybody comes up, we are able to extract DNA tests and archive them and bury them. And maybe later, 2-3 years or whatever time later, we are able to say, if someone comes and say, we want to have our loved one back, we are able to then conduct DNA to confirm the families and then repatriate all these bodies.
The South African Medical Association Trade Union Samatu will today march in Mpumalanga to demand the employment of unemployed medical doctors in the province. They say the march follows numerous unsuccessful attempts to address the matter with the National Health Department. Dr. Mandla Machabe is one of the doctors taking part in the march.
The World Healthcare Organization emphasizes that in a country that has a good healthcare system, the ratio of doctor to patient must be 1:1,000. In Mpumalanga, according to statistics released in 2022, we had one doctor for every 3,300 plus patients. This leads to burnout from the doctors because they are overburdened and they are overworked. This leads to a lot of mistakes being committed because doctors are fatigued. But obviously, the more doctors that we have, the lesser the waiting times in our institutions.
And finally, scientists are warning that invasive species of frogs, lizards, snakes and insects are entering northern Europe in shipments of cut flowers and potted plants. There are fears that the pests will wreak havoc in northern latitudes. The BBC's Helen Briggs has the details.
The University of Cambridge researchers say potential pests are slipping unnoticed into northern Europe from places such as East Africa and South America, despite regulations and border checks. Frogs and lizards have hitchhiked their way into Britain, including a tree frog from Colombia, and in mainland Europe, stowaway snakes have been found in olive trees destined for gardens. The scientists warn that improved global standards are urgently needed.
Recapping the top story, police have launched a manhunt for suspects after the bodies of 5 men were found in Inanda, KwaZulu-Natal. The deceased are believed to be aged between 19 and 26. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
TP Mazembe targets a highly spirited performance to wrap up the group stage with a consolation victory, while Sudanese giants Al Hilal vividly want to triumph to remain on the summit of Group A. The bottom versus the top. This is the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Experience the beauty of African football. TP Mazembe FC takes on Al Hilal FC this Saturday, 18 January at 3 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hi, my name is Kutlwana Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
Wekundu Wamsimbazi are playing for maximum points to finish top of Group A. But CSC strongly believe that their first position belongs to them. This is the top table clash of the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the delight of African football. Simba Sports Club versus CS Constantine. This Sunday, 19 January at 3 p.m. Live on SABC 1. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The SAFM Playwriting Competition is closing on the 3rd of February 2025. Explore the theatre of the mind and write your 60-minute radio drama play and email it before 5 p.m. on the 3rd of February 2025. Late submissions will not be accepted. For further information about the competition, visit safm.co.za or send an email to drama@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday. The Friday Wind Down. Kick off your weekend the right way.
Ma brrrr. That is a tribute.
Oh.
It's a tribute song by Malcolm Gianni, a jazz musician who is a multi-instrumentalist and is our guest on the Friday Wind Down today. Malcolm, good morning.
Oh, sabulisa. Sicela ukubulisa.
Bulisa.
Thixo, ngothando lodwa. It's an honor. Thank you so much, Mom Cathy. Ngiyabonga to finally to bless SA listeners, ngiyabonga humbly so. Yeah.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be with us for the next hour. I was quite fascinated. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I wanted us to start off with that song. I was quite fascinated reading about how you explained giving the song the title Mabrr, but not being aware of the significance that the year 2024 was actually for the late artist.
Oh, Thixo, it only can be God's time, yin-yang and everything. It just happened like that. So that was not me. It was the universe itself, I think, and the spirit that I carry with the song, and the song dedicated to such a human soul. So I it's not by me. It's God. Yes, yes.
So were you genuinely surprised when you were told that 2024 was the year that Brenda Fassie would have turned 60, also 20 years since she passed away? What was the first call that you received about this, or the first question that got you to know this, understand this, and what kind of impact did that have on you?
Oh, ma'am. Oh, Thixo. I'm still digesting it to date, because even how the song was composed, it's another miracle. Because the song, when I composed it, I was still a student back when I was still a student at a school called Music Academy of Gauteng, based at Benoni, Davidson. I was still a student at Ujonimeko, the late Ujonimeko school. So I heard the song, the melody, since then. And then when I recorded the song didn't have a title. And I remember when the minute we finished recording, Brenda Fassie spirit just came in my mind, just right there and there. And that's how it happened. And then the miracle part of it is that, the structure of the song, the details about music, the harmonies and the rhythm, without knowing, everything matches some of Brenda's song. Brenda's song has a song called, I don't know if you know the song. I must just check the lyrics about the name. She speaks about a woman walking barefoot. 10 kilometers, la 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 la. So that melody matches the exact song that I composed while I was a student. So you can't explain such a thing. It's a miracle, man. So, yeah.
I suppose it also just flows from having admired a particular artist, also having listened to their songs over a period of time, or over a number of years. Because the reality is that music stays with us, right? In our subconscious, it becomes embedded in our psyche.
Yes, yeah, it's one of those things. It's in the universe. I'm just fortunate to have that gift of ingoma, to being able, able to, resonate with such. Because Brenda, uyaphila, in spirit. That's what I'm saying. That will stay with us. Nomndeni wakhe, and ney'nyanya zakhe which still live. Umuntu yiko ngesintu wathi umuntu akafi.
Malcolm, I want to speak about you as an artist too, and your journey of becoming a multi-instrumentalist. Let's start with the first instrument that you learned how to play, and a bit about how that journey came about.
So I mentioned earlier where I started music. Music Academy of Gauteng. Isikolo saqala uJohn Meko, the late Baba Dr. John Meko, at Davidton. So I started playing drums. That's when the park started parking itself. And then from there everything just my interest and everything just changed. I immediately knew then that this is powerful. It's for me it was magical to be born into what I'm doing. I love it with such love. It gives me, that's my purpose. In fact, that's my success. That's heaven for me. Yes.
So how old were you when you started out as a drummer?
I was 16, 17, yeah, somewhere there. Yes. So my upbringing, had its own, beginnings. As such, I grew up in a children's home, and luckily I found myself, studying at this music school I'm telling you about. And then from there, basically, I gave it all. So from playing drums, I had an interest in playing piano, and then because it was right there, So basically, from that age, it was music, 24/7. I know nothing else besides what I am. Yes.
How would you say that you were shaped by those formative years? Growing up in a children's home, of course, it's you and other children who have all ended up where you are as a result of different circumstances, and the support structure is not the same. You're having to share the space. When you reflect back on it now, on the journey, how would you say it shaped you?
Oh, it's grace to have, for any child, when a child is born into this world, to have parents. Whether the mother is still alive or the father is alive or late, but to have people to take care of a child. So having such places which are called shelters or children's homes, they are there for that reason, for children, for parents, abandonment, our history, it has a lot of it really dented, an African person's existence, with the life, how we were, moved around, This isn't, it's no lie. It's embedded in our history. All those things, many years ago, they are still embedded in the children of today. So to have places that, I value that, because that was a safe, it was a home that I never had. And to have Ubaba Ujohn Meko, for him to build that school, also it's an angelic, that's a very powerful, godly sent soul to come and do such. because Mosaka, the school is still standing there. It's a testament that it's possible. It's possible to create what we could define as what we lack of. If we are going to talk about we are poor and we need jobs, of course. But what we do after we've complained, it's another mission. You need people such as Babu Junimeko, people who've dedicated their lives to establish such. It's a school. It might not mean so much, maybe, but it's an environment where abantu abaphiwe ubungoma, gifted with such nobility, ingoma, yomuntu. So it goes beyond just the physical and just the physical, what we normally say it's normal. It's not normal. It's a must that a human soul is, satisfied for being human. So if you are denied such things, it bothers the soul. It bothers everything. So for me, that's what I'm here to say with this song. True story. This, yes.
And at the point that you started with your music around the ages of 16, 17, my understanding is that it almost brought you back into the schooling environment, because at some point you had dropped out and you had left school. Speak to me about that experience, because I think it's so important to many people that will be listening out there to understand how, as individuals, we encounter life's challenges, and you can never prepare for what it is that will bring you into contact with your true purpose or your true destiny.
Oh, yeah, ma'am. Yes, true story. Everything you've just said. It's what I am. I reflect that. It's nobody's choice, or it's nobody's. But the human nature, or the human being inside the human being, needs to continue living. This is our immortal. Whether it rains or it fire or wind or whatever tragedy life brings, we're still here. So that's the must, and I would love to celebrate that with all my heart, with all my heart and everything I've got to celebrate and to let a human being know that you are worthy where you are. We shouldn't be boxed. We shouldn't be stripped such power just to be a human being. Maybe we should just demonstrate it. That's why I love when I titled my first record, Dumdali. When I was asked to what should I name this title of the album, I thought of everything that is wise in this world. I thought of everything that is powerful, to whom I should give. And then, and then Mdali came. And I was like, no, this is it. So that's what I represent.
Do you find that encountering music gave you something to focus in and to put your energies and your interest into, which is why you then quickly move from just being a drummer to learning how to play all sorts of other instruments? Because learning how to play any instrument takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of discipline, dedication.
Of course, all of those disciplines, and those disciplines too, they do apply to any other profession. By the way, yes. So also it's a gift. Look, if we could be talking about careers, I don't know. For instance, we're still battling with the system of our music schools, and I know just basic education in this country, is different from multiracial. We're still separated. So also something that just a thought that just came, about this education that we have at hand, basically, which is the black child is education, or so-called, because the only people who could afford the other schools. I just they are on the other side of the same land. We walk together. So I don't know how to describe such. For me, it's evil. Such thing. I don't know how to mold it into simple. Yeah, it doesn't fit that we have such different education when we are busy saying education is the key to success. I don't see this key. If you look at how our township schools are, and yes, this is our next generations.
All right. We're going to continue the conversation with Malcolm Gianni. He is a jazz musician, pianist, multi-instrumentalist, and he's our guest for the Friday Wind Down today. It's 11:30, time for your latest news headlines.
Well, the headlines at 11:30. I'm Dino Modaung. Good morning. 5 suspects have been arrested in connection with the murder of Mpumalanga police officer Lieutenant Colonel Pete Pitorius was gunned down in the line of duty in Emelo yesterday afternoon. In other news, residents of Inanda in Durban are struggling to come to terms with this morning's discovery of 5 bodies in the area. The bodies were found in the Bambai area. And some residents of Kuma near Stelfontein in the northwest have called on government to urgently formalize artisanal mining. They say this would prevent illegal mining. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
I feel great, I feel nice.
Kasho, what's the go? We're coiling on the highest, the summer level. What's the qua? It's the Nandi sessions with Mr. Showdem. It's the fa of live music. It's the go on SABC Plus. Catch the JR Feel Good sessions at 6 Fridays only on SABC 1. Mzansi for sure.
Abafana West 10 and the Rockets are both looking for a decent spot in the top half. They are all confident they will walk away from the battlefield with jubilance. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch the great passion and drama of Mzansi's beautiful game. Golden Arrows FC takes on TS Galaxy FC on Saturday 18 January live on SABC 1 at 2:30 p.m. and SABC radio stations at 3:30 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
After a 1-0 draw in Morocco during the first 90 minutes, Masandawana and the leader are both hungry to wrap up the group campaign with a win. The South locks horns with the North. This is the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Witness the thrilling flavor of African football. Mamelodi Sundowns FC versus AS Farabat FC on Sunday 19 January at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Every person
person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends. You need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
Celebrating our music heritage right here on the Friday Wind Down.
Angazingenze kanjani ngiyakthanda ngiyafila zongibole mina ngiyasifela ntombi uwe nje inkinga asinkinga singayixazulula baby ngimanzi uthando
Malcolm Gianni is our guest on the Friday Wind Down. And that, of course, Baby Gimanzi. Thank you, Malcolm, for coming onto the show and for being part of the show this Friday. So I want to talk about, because you've been in the jazz space for some time now, How would you describe sort of the evolution of jazz music in this country? Because, of course, we have different takes, young people bringing their own interpretations, their own touch to what jazz music is, and not everybody pursuing their careers in the traditional format, right? Not necessarily going through your record labels, people releasing albums independently. When you reflect on all of these changes, what would you say they have meant for the industry holistically? And I wonder how Malcolm Gianni, how he operates today. How different is what it would have been years ago?
Oh, I think the first part about South African music, let's just say African music in generally, ever since Mandulo, it's been beautiful. And I think going forward, let me just say, going forward, we're going to have fun. As if we're dancing to the moon, because this thing is embedded in us. So I this is how I foresee this abundance in terms, because we are influenced. Remember, if I just have to think of what influenced me is what our grandfathers and our grandmothers did musically, and we are the generation from those parents and grandmothers and grandfathers. We're from that seed of life. So I just see beauty, man, and there's more coming. It's a wave of just organic beauty.
And what gives you all of this hope, Malcolm, around this beauty, this organic beauty as you describe it?
Yes. Oh, because it's there. The evidence is there. It's there. When they hear this music, it gives them joy. That's why the whole universe is dancing on piano. Including the heavens. Take where is shy piano take? So I'm just saying, this continent, for instance, South Africa, how many languages are there? Basotho, Pedi, Tswana, Venda. So no, these nations come with their own intelligence of rhythm and song. So if you are, for instance, in Europe, if you are Italian, that's all you know, one structure. That's how God made it. If you're in Italian, there's no South Italian, West Italian, or dialect that could be more than 200 in one language. So there we go. That's where we get this. That's where I get this hope. And that's what it's coming out now. It's right there. It's embedded in our genes. It's our gift. It's God, in fact. Let me just put it. This is where I get such power and such boldness to know of such beauty. It is there.
Malcolm,
Yes.
what would you say that your own story has taught you about music, about the possibilities of what life can offer?
Yes. Oh, Tito. When you read the Bible, white people, I should give them thanks for bringing this book over, because it just documents. Well, it could be debated now, if the words are right or wrong, but the spirit that's written about, or the words, when you read them, they have to provoke the spirit that I'm just going to speak about. God created everything in this universe, and we were made in His image. If I was made in God's image, then why should I be denied to live as godly being? So, Ubuntu, basically we don't need the Bible per se, because just by being ubuntu, you are embedded with those values. So I am godly made through my mother and my father and my grandmother. And when we say ancestors, those are the people who gave birth to my mother and my father, and who gave birth to his mother and father. So it's embedded, for, uba umuntu, you can just connect to what maybe scientists are still battling to figure out how old is the world or the universe. When I say mandulo, that's zillion years, whatever. But it's just through the weight. Yes. So I'm a creation. This is my world. This is my earth. This is where I belong. Where else should I? There's no other place for me to, So basically, I'm one with this earth. Yes.
And it's reflected also in one of the songs that you've put together, Global Warming, that also expresses, that oneness that you feel with the earth and your concern for the state of the environment. Before we get into that song, I want you to talk to us about some of the projects that you're currently involved in. And perhaps, if there's specific things that you're going to be getting up to that you want our listeners to know about.
Oh, yes. Everything that's evil. Anything moyo mubi. That's my calling. Ingoma yami ithunyelwe ukwenza lokho. That's what I'm going to do. That's my next career. That's my career. That's my next gig. That's my next project. That's my next step. That's my being. Thank you, man.
It's going to be keeping you very busy, Malcolm. There's a lot of evil out there.
And also, look, without uma umntana gula unikwa ini, uma umuntu alambile, it's there, it's nature. It's nature. Umntana uyalidinga ibisi. So the mother giving a child ubisi, it's medicine. So you can't say the mother no. Imagine if God didn't make mothers with breast to give us milk. So I'm connected to that science, which doesn't need to be scientific. It's natural. Yes.
Okay. Denzel, you're in Kimberley. Good morning, Denzel.
Good morning, Cathy. Good morning.
Thank you.
Cathy, you did two very important interviews with people that are doing wonderful jobs in their communities. Now, this and sums it up. It's perfect. It shows and proves to me as a South African, and it's testament that there's hope. And what drives our resilience in this country as South Africans is stories and people and actual living proof of a positive outcome and belief is people like Mr. Malcolm. So, Cathy, this interview is very important. It sums up. It proves to us that when you ask him a question, he refers to Utwito. Now that is belief. You have to believe. I spoke to a the other day, president, and he said that was the first time he actually covered that because he must talk. That God is the one that carried him through this.
Thank you.
So thank you, Kate.
Oh, thank you. That's godly. That's God's words.
For that person,
yes,
that in the community that is doing a good job, you are driving him. It's what he
Oh, Denzel, the connection to you is not great, but I think that we've heard the sentiment you wanted to express, and Malcolm touched on it, right? That in fact, if he had not been able to go to the school that he went to, his life would have never been what it is. And he's mentioned Brajoni for the impact that he has had in as far as reaching out to young people like him at that particular point of his life, living in a shelter and having to deal with everything that life has thrown his way.
Yes.
So, Malcolm, what would you like to leave with our listeners then for this Friday morning?
Oh, man. To finish up on just what you said. So this, it is up to us, to every human being who's right there. This, doesn't cost anything, and I just want to let people know that God has never went to the heavens and somewhere. So God has been here. God lives. He's been living. He feels every pain. When we, everything that the universe or this earth we've endured. Or this is to any human being, man. God lives in you. You are godly. And it costs nothing. You are godly made. We are. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ma'am Cathy. Thank you so much for the invitation, and bless your soul, ma'am. Thank you.
Welcome, Gianni. Thank you so much for coming onto the Friday wind down. And that's where we're going to leave it with that conversation. I'm going to say goodbye with one of the songs that Malcolm has put together. It's called Global Warming, and again, highlights just his very strong feelings, as you've heard him express, towards the environment and how we nurture the earth. We'll be back with you again Monday morning between 9 and midday. Have yourselves a lovely weekend.
kanti yini inkinga yakho. Siyanibona kumnandi ya kanti yini inkinga yenu. Aniboni silambile siyazama abantu bayadayinjaza kanti yini inkinga yenu. Akunamanzi, akunama-toilet, akunamfundo, mara sidla isushi. Mandi kanti yini inkinga yenu. Nasibulala, nasicela, canda sibona. Nayo yini awusuthi yini ufunani. Kanti yini sihlupheka kangaka. Akuphela izifo, akuphela ukubulalana, kunini sicela ngikhulumela abangazikhulumeli. Siyanibona niyanona niphethe izitatangiso uyozikhulumela. Uzosho ukuthi Satan, sokunqoba yo siyakunqoba ke Sathane. Hamba Sathane, hamba Sathane, hamba wanqoba wena kudala yo. Oh sebo dali.
It's 12 o'clock on Friday, the 17th of January 2025. A very warm welcome to Updated Noon here on SFM. Leading the conversation, I'm Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up in the next hour...
It's frustrating to see that it's happening like this. It's just a young children that just brutality like this is not good at all.
Manhunt currently underway in KwaZulu-Natal after 5 men were found in the Bambai area of Inanda hacked to death. And government is holding urgent talks with ArcelorMittal amid the company's plans to close down its operations. Coming up in sport.
Latest from the Australian Open, there's Premiership football on the go, and I'm kind of going to apologise to United fans.
Oh, you never apologized to me. John Gericke coming up with some sports news. But before then, let us know your thoughts as well. 41391, that's the SMS line number, and it is charged at R1.50 per SMS. You can also write to us via X, our handle at SABC News_radio, or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 0826923909. Well, these and more stories coming up on this Friday edition of Updated Noon. First, though, the latest news with Janelle Motao.
Thanks, Sakina. Top stories: 5 arrested for murder of Mpumalanga police officer, and Trump names trio of stars as Hollywood ambassadors. Good afternoon. 5 suspects have been arrested in connection with the murder of a Mpumalanga police officer. Lieutenant Colonel Pistorius was gunned down in the line of duty in Emelo yesterday afternoon. He was in a state vehicle when the incident happened. Provincial Police spokesperson Jabu Ndubani says the vehicle that was used in the commission of the crime was found torched near Emelo. She says the suspects were arrested in Mbombela.
The acting provincial commissioner of the SAPS in Mpumalanga, Major General Dr. Zeph Mkwanazi, has welcomed the arrest of 5 suspects aged between 29 and 40, believed to be linked to the killing of an on-duty police officer, Lieutenant Colonel Pete Pistorius, on Thursday, 16 January 2025 in Emelo in less than 24 hours. The acting provincial commissioner will visit the bereaved family of the late Colonel Pistorius today.
Moving to KZN, residents of Finanda in Durban are struggling to come to terms with this morning's discovery of 5 bodies in their areas. The bodies were found in the Mbambai area. The deceased, aged 19 and 26, are believed to have been hacked to death. Some residents pointed out bodies. One of them, Dokozo Dladle, is calling for the revival of local community structures.
It's a very sad full story, like seeing teenagers lying down like this in the ground, which means there's a story behind that. Something happened, but then we don't know what it is. But then to us, it's very painful. I think forums can help a lot because even at night, we cannot walk around if there are forums because they will tell you to go back at home.
In the northwest, some residents of Kuma near Stelfontein have called on government to urgently formalize artisanal mining. They say this would prevent illegal mining. The residents' call come after over 246 illegal miners were brought to the surface and 78 retrieved from a disused mine. Some residents say the authorities' crackdown on illegal mining activities have left them without jobs. Others say some unemployed people have resorted to crime.
Kuma is just a ghost town. We literally have nothing. We don't have industrials. We don't have nothing. So 80% of our people here are in unemployment. So it's the only thing that they're depending on it. So that's why we are saying our government, maybe if they can hear us to say, let's help our people so that they can apply for those things, that particular thing that will be needed, so that they can participate on small-scale mining.
We are very scared because when they close the shaft, we are going back to the root. The justice will be here and the crime will be started again.
In other news, the Judicial Conduct Tribunal probing sexual harassment allegations against Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge has heard that the complainant, Andy Swamengo, referred to Mbenenge as Daddy. This is revealed in one of the text messages that form part of the evidence in the January 2023 complaint. Mengo, a judge's secretary, accuses Judge Mbenenge of sexual harassment in the form of in-person interaction and electronic communication between June 2021 and November 2022. She explains why she referred to him as Daddy.
Ndiphendule kanjalo ngoba ungutata and iyindlela
endithetha ngayo nakwabanye ndithi tata okanye nakwezinye ijaji ndithi mami njengokuba nabo bendithatha njengomntana wabo intombazana.
I responded in this manner because he is indeed a father, and I refer to him as father, and I do the same to other male judges. I refer to them as Didi as well. The female ones, I will call them mommy, as they also understand that I am their little girl.
Lastly, further afield, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has named 3 actors as special envoys to Hollywood, saying he wants to make the U.S. entertainment industry stronger. He says Sylvester Stallone, Mel Gibson and Jon Voight would be his eyes and ears. Many stars backed Kamala Harris in last year's election. The BBC's Emma Vardy has the details.
Hollywood has struggled in recent years with writers' strikes, COVID and competition from streaming platforms. Donald Trump wrote on his social networking site, Truth Social, that the special envoys will help bring business back to the movie industry, claiming Hollywood has been losing out to foreign countries. It's not clear exactly what role they'll play, but the announcement comes in the wake of the LA wildfires that have led to the destruction of the homes of a number of Hollywood celebrities.
Recapping the top story this hour, 5 suspects have been arrested in connection with the murder of a Mpumalanga police officer. For SFM News, I'm Janelle Motaung. Headlines at 12:30. Sakina is over to you with Update at Noon.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo.
Thanks so much, Janelle. Good afternoon, everybody. It's 7 minutes after 12 here on Update at Noon. Thanks so much for making the time to be with us. Now, just a quick look at our diary. These are some of the stories that we hope to bring you updates on this afternoon. Starting in KwaZulu-Natal, where the bodies of 5 men have been discovered in, in Inanda. And a statement from a private security company said that their operations center received multiple calls for assistance from residents in the vicinity of the Inanda Newtown Comprehensive High School this morning, and they, upon arriving there, found